You ever get hit with something so stupid, so mind-blowingly unfair, that you don't even get mad at first, you just sit there like, WTF just happened? That was me, last Sunday, at dinner. We were all at my parents' place. Me, my stepmom Elaine, her daughter Sabrina, my dad, Uncle Terry, a couple of cousins. Usual thing, roast chicken, that lemon cleaner smell because Elaine always loses her mind cleaning when people are coming over. I was there out of obligation more than anything. I hadn't missed a Sunday dinner in years, even though I probably should have stopped showing up a long time ago. I was exhausted. Spent the whole week debugging back-end server issues for a client who thought urgent meant 2 a.m. texts. Barely slept, but I was pumped. Why? Because we'd been planning a family trip to Greece for months. Months! I dropped $2,000 for it already. Flights, Airbnb, that ridiculous van Elaine said would keep us all together. Dad promised we'd use this trip to reconnect. He literally said, just us, like the old days. So I'm sitting at the table, waiting for the right moment. Then I go. I'm so hyped for next week, I've been counting down. And suddenly, the room went dead silent. Like, straight-up movie scene level silence. Sabrina looked at me with this little side smirk and said, "Wait, are you serious?" Then laughed. Laughed. Dad kept eating. Elaine just sipped her wine like it was none of her business. "We got back yesterday," Sabrina added, like it was no big deal. I thought I misheard. "Back from where?" Elaine put down her fork slowly. "Sweetie." That's when Aunt Jen, who sucks at lying, decided to save the moment by pulling out her phone and showing me the photos. Whole family, smiling on a cliff in Santorini. Dad, Elaine, Sabrina, Uncle Terry, even the damn twins who allegedly had school. Everyone, except me. I stared at the screen. My mouth didn't know how to form words. I felt like my brain just blue-screened. They already went. And no one told me. They didn't forget, they just left me out. I pushed my chair back, stood up slowly. Nobody stopped me, not even my dad, who always says, "Julian, don't be dramatic." Not even Sabrina, who had the audacity to mutter under her breath, "Drama queen." I drove home, didn't even change out of my button-up, sat on the edge of my bed for 2 straight hours, staring at the floor. Not crying, not angry, just empty. And confused, mostly confused. What the hell just happened? The next morning, I took a sick day. First one in forever. I wasn't sick, but emotionally wrecked. I opened my laptop, pulled up my banking app, and started going through every single transaction from the last year. I was disgusted with myself. I'd covered Sean's, my step-cousin's rent for just 2 months, $1,200, bought a fridge for my parents, paid their water bill twice. I was basically the family ATM and didn't even notice it. Thought I was being helpful. Helpful. They didn't think twice about cutting me out, but they remembered me when the bill came due. How convenient. I made a spreadsheet, not even kidding, labeled it family expenses, everything I'd covered, rent, groceries, emergencies, Netflix, even the family phone plan. I'd been paying for Sabrina's data and she couldn't even send me a text about the trip. Screw that. By Wednesday, the Netflix password changed. By Friday, the phone plan was split. I canceled the emergency fund I'd set up when Dad had knee surgery. That was $5,700 sitting there. I took every last cent. No one noticed. No one called. Not until Saturday morning. Elaine rang my doorbell. I watched through the peephole. She stood there with a paper bag, probably my favorite takeout, trying to play the guilt card. I didn't open it. She knocked again, waited. I let her. After 5 minutes, she walked away. Did I feel bad? Honestly, no. I felt relief. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't on call for their nonsense. Then came the kicker. That night, I checked the old shared bank account we used to manage bills. They never shut it down, probably assumed I wasn't paying attention. There was still $6,000 sitting in it, slowly leaking out in little bits, $85 for home decor, $40 at a spa. So I did what any sane person would do. I transferred all of it to a new account under my name, then I shut the old one down. 2 hours later, Dad called. I didn't pick up. His voicemail, tight, clipped, annoyed. Julian, what happened to the account? Your mother tried to pay the electric and it got declined. This is getting childish. We need to talk. No, you need to listen. And that's how it started. One dinner, one photo, one realization. They didn't just forget me, they chose to. And I was about to make sure they'd remember me in a way they wouldn't forget. Not ever. Next morning, I woke up weirdly calm, like when your body's done panicking and finally accepts the facts. So I made coffee, sat on my old leather couch, opened my laptop, and started cutting. I logged into every shared account I could remember. Spotify Family Plan, gone. Hulu changed the password. Phone bill, I split the damn plan. They could figure out how to pay for unlimited data on their own now. Electric bill auto pay from my account canceled. And yeah, I knew they'd notice eventually. That was the point. I wasn't trying to be petty. I was done playing dependable Julian, because apparently I wasn't family enough to join a trip I paid for, but always the guy to call when the sink backed up or the power got cut. Nah, not anymore. Later that day, I went to the folder, the receipts folder. Yes, I have one, a literal folder in Google Drive labeled Family Stuff, filled with screenshots of PayPal transfers, Venmo logs, and every digital receipt from the past few years. Even the damn fridge I bought them had a PDF invoice, model hash, shipping address, everything. I renamed the folder, called it the audit. And I kept going. I pulled out my old fireproof box from the closet. It had old tax returns, copies of checks, W-2s. I found one from when I was still dumb enough to let Elaine borrow my social security number so she could help refinance the car in her name. Yeah, I was that naive once. Guess what? That paperwork came back later in a way I didn't see coming. Midweek, Sabrina finally texted, "First time since the dinner?" You good heard you were mad. It wasn't personal, LOL. LOL. I stared at the message. My eye twitched. You good? That's what she had for me. I left her on read, not out of pettiness, but because I honestly didn't know how to respond to that kind of detachment. Like, you used my money, went on vacation without me, then hit me with not personal LOL. F********, that. That Friday, I started talking to a lawyer, friend of mine from college, Leo, who now specializes in identity stuff and tech fraud. We got drinks, I vented, and by the second beer he goes, "Wait, they used your name for bookings. You sure?" I nodded. "And they have access to your credit." Me used to, I think, maybe I'm not even sure anymore. He sighed and said something I didn't want to hear but needed to. "Man, you need to lock your accounts down, like yesterday." So we spent 2 hours that night locking every door they could sneak through, froze my credit, changed passwords, two-factor auth on literally everything, took my name off any lingering cosigns. Then Leo asked me something else. You ever thought about going no contact? I had, but I always stopped short because guilt. Because even after all of this, some tiny, annoying voice in my head still said, "They're still your family." But lately, that voice had been drowned out by the sound of my own dignity clawing its way back to life. Saturday rolled around. I didn't go to dinner. I didn't even send an excuse. I watched dumb YouTube videos and ordered Thai food. And you know what? It was peaceful. Until my phone dinged. Voicemail from Elaine. Julian, honey, I know you're upset, but can we talk? It was just a misunderstanding. Then she launched into something about communication and we love you and why are you being distant? I deleted it halfway through. Sabrina texted again later. We can refund you your share if that's what you want. Chill. Oh, now it's your share. I wasn't just the donor anymore. I was the inconvenience. That's when I realized they didn't feel bad. They felt inconvenienced. It was never about what they did. It was about me making it a thing. That pissed me off more than anything else. Sunday morning, I got the real gut punch. A notification from Credit Karma. New inquiry under your name. I clicked it, not fully registering. It was from some property management firm in Texas, a real estate inquiry, mortgage level. I thought it had to be a mistake, so I called the number listed on the form. A woman answered, Hi, this is Clarissa with Lone Oak Properties. Are you Julian T. Rivers? I confirmed, We're just following up on your cosign request submitted last Thursday. Cosign. It looks like your mother Elaine Rivers filed it jointly. She listed you as a co-borrower. I almost dropped the phone. I hung up, stared at the wall, my jaw locked so tight I thought I'd break a molar. They weren't just using me emotionally. They were trying to use me legally. I called Leo back, and all I said was, It's worse than I thought. And he goes, Okay, we go nuclear. That night, I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. I organized everything. Screenshots, emails, logs, bank transfers, texts, that credit hit. I updated the folder, added a new subfolder. Fraud. Then I did the thing I'd been avoiding. I opened a blank document. Subject line, to everyone who forgot I exist until they needed me. And I wrote the email. No caps lock yelling, no melodrama. Just facts, cold, clear, receipts attached. I didn't send it yet, not then. Because I wanted one last confirmation. Just to be sure. Next morning, I got it. A call from Aunt Rochelle, not someone I hear from often. Julian, your mom's trying to open a second loan using your name. She asked me to co-sign, said you'd agreed already. There it was, game on. So yeah, that call from Aunt Rochelle. That was it for me. I wasn't shocked anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry in that loud, red-hot way. I was just done. Done being the soft landing, done being the wallet with Wi-Fi access, done being the mature one they could keep screwing over because I'd always come back. So I did what I'd promised myself last night. I opened the email again, the one I'd titled, To Everyone Who Forgot I Exist Until They Needed Me. And I sent it to all of them. Not just Elaine and Sabrina. Nope, full BCC blast. Uncles, cousins, family friends who still send me Christmas cards, anyone who ever forwarded me a group thread about potlucks or funerals. Attached was the full Google Drive folder. Receipts, spreadsheets, screenshots, the fake cosign attempt, the mortgage application I didn't apply for, the PayPal requests I never agreed to, a literal chart showing who borrowed what, when, and never paid back. At the end, I wrote, This isn't revenge, this is reality, and from now on, I'll be living in mine, not yours. Don't call, don't text. If there's a legal matter, my lawyer's info is below. Click. Send. I sat there afterward, breathing like I'd just run a marathon. Then I shut my laptop and ordered pancakes. Because damn it, I deserved pancakes. About 3 hours later, the voicemail started. First one was Elaine, predictably. Julian, please, that email, that was cruel. We're family. Don't do this to us. To us. I laughed out loud, in my kitchen, alone, like a madman. I didn't even open the rest. I just let them pile up like trash mail. I'd hear little previews as they came in. Julian, you're acting like a stranger. Bro, WTF was that email? Call me now or I swear to God. Sabrina even tried FaceTiming me, twice, like that would somehow undo the years of silent manipulation. Nope. I declined the call, then I texted her one word. Don't. Then came the panic phase. By Monday, I got a message from my cousin Jay. Jay's the only one who kinda gets it. Quiet dude, never borrowed a cent, just always kept his head down. His text read, I saw the folder. Honestly, respect. You've been carrying them for years. I stared at that message for a while. Didn't reply right away, but I felt it, that tiny ember of validation, like someone finally saw it. Then came the real kicker. That night, I got an email from the loan office. Subject: fraudulent application status update. They'd reviewed the claim. Based on the evidence I sent, thank you, screenshots, the cosign request was officially flagged as identity misuse. The application was voided. They even recommended I pursue legal action. At the bottom of the email, it said, due to severity, the account tied to Elaine Rivers has been blacklisted from future applications. I stared at that line for a long time. Blacklisted. I didn't cheer. I didn't fist pump. I just exhaled. Because for once, it wasn't me cleaning up the mess. Tuesday morning, I woke up to 37 missed messages. Yeah, 37. Then, total silence. I guess when people can't argue the facts, they just vanish. But one message stood out. It wasn't aggressive or performative. It was a short email from my dad of all people. Subject: we screwed up. Julian. I read everything. No excuses. I failed you. We all did. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do want you to know that I see it now. Mark? I didn't know how to feel. I mean, where was this energy before? Back when I was the one Venmoing $200 so the power wouldn't get shut off. Still, I didn't delete it. Just archived it for later, maybe. That weekend, I did something new. I turned off my phone, went out to a park with a book, bought myself a burger and a milkshake, and didn't think about any of them for 6 hours straight. No guilt, no tension, just stillness. And you know what? It felt like stepping into the person I should have been all along. Someone who isn't just the backup plan. Someone who doesn't keep swallowing disrespect because it's not worth the drama. Someone who finally said, you don't get to hurt me and have access to me. Sunday night, Sabrina tried one last Hail Mary. Sent me a selfie of her crying. Caption: are you happy now? You broke mom? I stared at it for maybe 10 seconds. Then I deleted the entire thread. Blocked her number. Done? No more being the one who has to absorb everybody else's pain, while mine gets brushed off like lint. Last thing I did that night, I wrote myself a note in my phone. Real simple. It said, when you feel weak, remember how they treated you when you finally stood up. That note, that's my anchor now. Because even when I doubt myself, because trust me, I still do, sometimes that line reminds me, I didn't overreact, Baisa. I didn't exaggerate. I just finally reacted. It's weird how fast people go from your family to your dramatic when you stop being useful. Anyway, that next week was quiet. Like suspiciously quiet. No calls, no texts, not even a guilt meme from Sabrina. Which you'd think I'd love, right? Finally some damn peace. But nah, it felt like that moment in a horror movie when the woods go dead silent and you know something's about to jump out. Turns out I was right. Thursday morning, I'm sipping coffee, half watching some random YouTube video, and I get a text. Not from any number I recognize. But it reads, "Heads up, Elaine's trying to sell the lake house. You might want to look into it." No name, just that. And I'm like, wait, what lake house? I didn't know we had a damn lake house. So I start digging. Remember how I told you Sabrina used my name on that YouTube channel? Well, turns out she wasn't the only one getting creative with my info. Elaine's sweet, church-going, guilt-tripping. Elaine had bought a second property 3 years ago. In her name. And mine? I shit you not. She must have added me as a silent co-investor or some other bull. Probably forged a signature. I honestly wouldn't even put it past her at this point. Property was up in Lake Travis. Decent spot. Real estate site said it was family-owned, lightly used. Translation: bought with my credit, enjoyed without my knowledge. Want to guess where that refinance loan she tried to co-sign recently was aimed? Yep, that house. So now I'm furious. Not hurt, not shocked. Just straight up, steam out my ears pissed. I called my lawyer, laid it all out, sent him links, public records, whatever I could find. He didn't even flinch. Dude just goes, "Okay, you want this buried or burned?" I told him, burned, salt the earth. He laughed. My kind of client. We filed paperwork that afternoon. Reported the forged co-ownership, froze any title transfers, got a legal hold on the sale. Elaine wouldn't be listing anything anytime soon. Then I did something that felt insanely petty, and also insanely good. I logged into that YouTube account Sabrina had made under my name. Guess what? She'd never changed the recovery email. So I hit forgot password, got access, and boom, I was in. Not only was she making content, but she had sponsorship deals, payouts, freaking ads. All tied to the account with my credentials. So I nuked it. Deleted everything. Videos, date, bio, branding, gone. I didn't say a word. I just let her find out on her own. An hour later, I got an email. You violated community guidelines. Your account has been terminated. Perfect. No trace, no drama. Just click, gone. Later that day, I checked my bank account. A $24.99 charge popped up from one of those family Spotify plans. I'd already removed them last month, or so I thought. Turns out Sabrina added herself back using an old invite link. I canceled it again, then changed the login, every login. Spotify, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Instacart, freaking Costco. They were cut off for good now. I was going full no contact and full no benefits. Then, because I was apparently on a roll, I posted a blog. Not just any blog. This was on Medium Public, Shared under my real name. Title: When Family Means Fraud, a Cautionary Tale. I wrote about everything. Not in some angry, ranty way, but like a guide, a story, a what to look for when your own blood takes advantage of you kind of post. I didn't name names directly, no libel, just truths. Facts, dates, receipts. It blew up. A few hours later, I started getting DMs from strangers. People saying, "Dude, same thing happened to me. I thought I was alone. Thank you for putting this into words." I felt seen, like this nightmare wasn't just mine. There were thousands of us. People raised to put family first and then quietly chewed up by that very loyalty. The best part: a local news blog reached out. Said they were running a piece on financial abuse in families and wanted to quote my post. I said sure. They used my initials only. When it published, someone in Elaine's church circle forwarded it to her. How do I know? Because that night, I got a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. "I don't even recognize you anymore. This isn't how we raised you. You've made us into a spectacle. Lady, you made me a co-owner of a house I never knew existed. You tried to cash out under my name. And I'm the one who crossed the line." Nah. Screw that. The next few days were quiet again. But a different kind of quiet. Not fear silence. Closure. Silence. Had cheese. I was sleeping better. Eating better. Even started jogging in the morning. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying someone else's unpaid emotional rent. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. When people say family's everything, ask yourself, are you everything to your family or just everything useful? Because one is love. The other's just leverage. And I'm finally done being leverage. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Like actual paper, stamped, return address Elaine. Which honestly made me laugh. Imagine going from gaslighting you into paying property tax on a secret lake house to "Dear Julian, please read this heartfelt note." But whatever, I opened it. And it started like this. "Dear Julian, we all make mistakes. What matters is how we recover from them." Oh, cool, a TED Talk in cursive. She went on for 3 pages, 3 freaking pages, talking about how family is messy, how she only did what she thought was best, and how it wasn't fair of me to air private matters publicly. Private matters? You mean the ones you fraudulently filed with the county? The ones that had my credit tied to a house I didn't know existed? Nah. She said Sabrina was struggling after I deleted the YouTube channel and was considering therapy. Okay, good. She should. Actions have consequences. Welcome to Earth. What Elaine really wanted, though, was obvious. She wanted me to retract the blog. She even suggested we issue a joint statement, like we were public figures in a scandal or something. I folded the letter in half, walked over to the trash, and dropped it in. Didn't even rip it up. Just plop. A few days later, my lawyer texted me a heads up. They tried filing a motion to claim joint ownership default on the Lake Travis house. It was denied. Of course it was. Because we'd already submitted proof of the forged docs. Still, they were trying to get sneaky. Dragging it out? I told him, let them waste their energy. I'm done reacting. Just shut it all down. He sent a thumbs up emoji and a little flame. Legend. So I did something wild. I booked a flight. Not to escape, not to run, but to reset. Santa Fe in New Mexico. I'd been once in college and always remembered how still it felt. Not quiet, not boring, still. So I rented a little Airbnb, packed light, and left town for a week. Just me, a borrowed Kindle, and enough snacks to feed a teenager. It was magic. Hiking in the morning, coffee on a porch swing, no group chats, no fake family dinners, no pretending. Just breathing. That second night, I sat outside watching the stars and realized this wasn't just a break. It was the first time I wasn't living my life in reaction to someone else's mess. I wasn't patching holes. I wasn't waiting for the next favor. I was just me unbothered. When I got back home, it was like something clicked into place. I cleaned my apartment top to bottom, donated half my stuff, got a haircut, deleted all the old voicemails, even changed the scent of my laundry detergent. New era, new everything. I also finally replied to one message from Sabrina. Yeah, she'd messaged me the week before I left, and I'd ignored it. It said, I didn't know it'd go this far. I just wanted to feel important. You've always had everything. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a while, then replied with just this, then fix what you broke, all of it. She left me on read, which honestly felt perfect. Then came the final twist. You ready for this? About a month after everything went public, I got a call from my old boss, real nice guy, runs a mid-sized tech consultancy. Said he read my blog and wanted to know if I'd come give a talk to his team about financial boundaries, burnout, and being the fixer in families. Like what? I'm just a dude who got tired of being robbed by people who claim to love him. But I said yes. I wrote up a little slide deck, nothing fancy, and showed up. Room full of engineers, PMs, quiet types like me. I just told my story. Didn't dress it up, didn't try to sound like Oprah. I just said what happened. And when I finished, there was this silence. Not awkward. Respectful. Then someone in the back raised a hand. Did it feel good to finally stop being the one holding everything up? And I said, honestly, it didn't feel good at first. It felt like shit, but eventually, it felt like relief. They all nodded. After that talk, I got invited to do a podcast. Then a panel. Then someone sent me an early draft of a book about financial trauma, asking if they could quote me. That's when it hit me. This thing they tried to break me with. I turned it into fuel. They wanted to make me small, silent, invisible. Instead, I got loud. I got bigger. And I got free. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. But Julian, did they ever apologize? Did you ever go back? Nah. They apologized to their image. Not to me. They missed the help, not the person. And I don't go back to places that only miss me when I'm useful. The best part. I recently bought a tiny cabin up north, near a lake. Paid for it in my name. No co-signers, no secret partners. Just me. And the deed is framed right above my desk. Whenever I look at it, I remember you don't have to stay where you're not seen. You can build something new. And sometimes when family won't love you right, You build a life that makes their absence feel like peace. 2 weeks ago, I got another email. It was from Elaine. Subject line: let's talk before the lawyers go too far. Too far. Lady, you took out a mortgage with my social security number, tried to frame me as unstable in the family group chat, and forged my name on legal documents. We are so far past too far. Still, I opened it, because I'm not petty. Okay, I'm a little petty. It was her usual brand of manipulative PR. This entire ordeal has caused irreparable damage to our family. Sabrina hasn't been herself. Your father is embarrassed. We're all hurting, but you've made your point, and it's time to heal. She even bolded that part. Made your point. As if this was all a speech I gave out of spite instead of years of being everyone's personal ATM and IT help desk. She ended with this: we still consider you part of the family. Please, let's find a way back to that. Nah, I'm good. You know what's wild? I used to think healing meant reconnecting. Like, the only way to get peace was to fix it all, get everyone to understand, hug it out. Nope. Sometimes, healing is realizing someone's apology doesn't fix who they are. And then you go heal without them. That's what I did. I kept building my new life. Signed a book deal. Yeah, that happened. It's not a memoir, it's part advice, part storytelling, about being the responsible one, about how people weaponize your reliability, about how saying no gets you labeled ungrateful even after you paid for the cake and brought the plates. Apparently, that hits home for a lot of folks. Sabrina eventually reached back out. Just a text. I paid off the credit card, also transferred the AdSense balance. I get it now. No excuses, no begging. And weirdly, that one felt real. She finally did something instead of just saying she would. I replied, thank you. That's it. No door reopened. No let's catch up. Just closure. Elaine tried again, through a mutual family friend this time, the whole maybe just meet for coffee thing. But no. There's no coffee strong enough to undo what she did. I stopped engaging. Stopped replying. I didn't block them because I don't need to. I outgrew them. And they know it. A few nights ago, I stood in my cabin's little kitchen, making tea, and realized something. I don't think about them daily anymore. Not like I used to. The weight, the tension, the walking on eggshells thing gone. My phone doesn't ring off the hook with, "Can you help us move?" or "The Wi-Fi's out again," or "We just need a small favor." And that silence. It's not sad. It's sacred. People sometimes ask me, would you ever forgive them? And I always say I already have. I just don't owe them access to the version of me that came after. Because that's what it was, rebirth. This new version of me doesn't carry guilt like groceries. He doesn't finance guilt trips. He doesn't accept love with strings. Funny story. I ran into my old high school friend the other day, Marcus. Ironically, we hadn't seen each other in forever. We grabbed coffee like actual coffee. He asked how things were, and I told him a condensed version, like, family's a mess, but I'm good now. And he said, damn, you always were the reliable one. Glad you finally became reliable to yourself. I almost cried right there. Because that was it. That's the whole story. I didn't stop being dependable. I just stopped letting people abuse that trait. I gave it back to the person who deserved it most, me. So if you're still here, if you're still reading, let this be your sign. You are not selfish for pulling away from people who only remember you when they need something. You are not cruel for setting boundaries, even if they cry and pout and call you dramatic. You are not wrong for protecting your peace. You are not the villain in someone's story just because you stopped being their safety net. I'll end with this. My name's Julian. I'm 31. I used to be the fixer. Now I'm free. And I'll never again trade my silence for someone else's comfort. Thanks for listening. Story 2. I always thought the bare minimum from your family was being seen. Not praised, not paraded, just seen, noticed, considered. But apparently, even that was too much to ask. My name's Kayla Ruiz. I'm 23 and I just graduated from Berkeley with a degree in data science. It's not some cute milestone, it's 4 years of hell sleep deprivation, 2 jobs, and living off stale bagels just to walk across a stage they didn't even bother showing up for. When my sister Leah graduated last year, same family, same budget, they threw her a massive backyard party with a live band, catering, and fairy lights strung across the lawn like it was a wedding. She got a 2-week European trip as a gift. I got a bracelet. And a cold chicken dinner at home. No joke, that was my celebration. But let me back up, because this didn't start with graduation. It started with everything before that. I grew up in Modesto, where if you weren't a nurse, a teacher, or already pregnant at 19, people looked at you funny. My mom, Nina, teaches 3rd grade. My dad, Victor, is a plumbing contractor. Both blue-collar, both hard-working. But only if the effort was for Leah. She's the golden one. Not even because she's smarter or kinder or works harder, she just shines in their eyes. The way some kids do. You know, teachers adored her. Parents bragged about her. She got the bigger room, the later curfew, the louder applause. I was the helper, the "you're so mature" one, the unpaid assistant mom leaned on and dad ignored unless something was broken. In high school, Leah failed geometry and blamed the teacher. I got an A and my parents asked me to tutor her. When I got a job at a frozen yogurt shop at 16 to save up for a school trip, they borrowed $200 for Leah's cheer camp and never paid it back. That same year, I got into a summer coding boot camp, cost $1,300. When I asked for help covering it, Dad said, "That's too much for a summer hobby. Find something closer to home." I took on another shift instead and paid for it myself. College was always the plan for me, not them. They didn't push it. I did. I applied to 6 schools, got into 3, chose Berkeley because I earned a partial merit scholarship, just enough to cover tuition. I told my parents I'd handle the rest: rent, books, food, all of it. I was proud, dumb, but proud. My mom cried when I left, not because she'd miss me, but because this house won't run itself. They didn't help me move. Leah did, kind of. She tagged along to take selfies on the drive and posted "missing my sis already" before I'd even unpacked. That first semester was rough. I shared a basement apartment with 3 strangers and worked 25 hours a week at a coffee shop where the espresso machine broke twice a day. I studied at night, cried in the bathroom when I failed my first stats midterm, and survived on pasta and peanut butter. But I adjusted. I figured it out. By junior year, I landed a paid internship at a fintech startup in Oakland. It paid actual money. For the first time in forever, I could breathe. That's when the phone calls started. "Mom, sweetie, we're behind on the gas bill. Can you send a little something?" "Dad, Leah's car broke down. You're doing so well now, mind spotting us $400. I kept track. I wrote every amount in a Google sheet: $85, $130, $200. It added up. I told myself it was temporary. It wasn't. Every time I got a new side gig, the calls got more frequent. They guilt-tripped me for not coming home enough, then complained I was working too much. Leah still living at home, still carless, still being praised for focusing on her mental health while scrolling TikTok on the couch all day. This March, I emailed my family a digital invitation to my graduation, included all the info, date, time, live stream link. I even mentioned I'd be giving a speech during the ceremony. It was a big deal. Top 10% of my class. I worked for it. I bled for it. No one responded. A week passed. Nothing. So I called. My dad answered during a baseball game and said, "Oh yeah, your mom mentioned something. We'll see if we can make it." My stomach dropped. He didn't even know the date. Graduation came. It was sunny, breezy, perfect. I stood backstage, trembling, waiting for my name. They called me up, and I looked out into the sea of faces, searching, hoping. Nothing. No mom, no dad, no Leah. Just Maya, my best friend, cheering like a maniac in the second row. My speech was short. I thanked my professors, my friends, the bus driver who never charged me full fare that semester. I couldn't make rent. I didn't mention my family. Afterward, I checked my phone. No messages. Then, curious, stupidly I opened Instagram. Leah had posted stories her at brunch, clinking mimosas with friends. Caption: Saturdays are for self-care. Timestamped during my ceremony. I shut my phone off. I went home, lit a candle, sat on the floor, cried for 2 hours. Then I opened that Google sheet and tallied every dollar. $7,640. That's what I'd sent my family over the last 3.5 years. Rent, groceries, Leah's phone bill, that emergency root canal for Dad never happened. I checked his Instagram too. He was at a Lakers game that weekend. Later that night, I got a text from my mom. "Hope your big day went well. Sorry we couldn't make it. Leah's going through a tough time and we didn't want to leave her alone. Proud of you though." No emojis, just vibes. I stared at that message for a long time. I didn't respond. I started packing instead. Because that was the moment I decided I'm done. No more guilt, no more handouts, no more hoping they'd wake up one day and see me. You don't get to ignore me and still cash in on my effort. This ends now. The next morning, I opened every financial account I had and started cutting the cords. The family phone plan removed my number and closed it. The joint Spotify I was paying for gone. That shared Netflix account that Leah used for her 4 a.m. reality TV binges logged out, password changed. I wasn't being petty. I was reclaiming space. Then came the big one, my Chase checking account. The one I'd let my parents have access to just in case. I logged in and scrolled through the transaction history. They'd been dipping into it without telling me. Little things. $60 here, $125 there, always tagged with vague descriptions, utilities, emergency groceries, for Leah. I transferred the entire balance to a new bank, locked it down with two-factor authentication. Felt like changing the locks on my life. It felt liberating. A few days later, I got my first email from Dad in over a year. Subject line: Family should stick together. Kayla, your actions recently have caused a lot of stress in the household. We don't understand why you're acting like this. We've always been there for you. Please call us. The audacity. I replied with a PDF attachment reimbursement summary, listing every dollar I'd sent them with receipts. Below that, I added, "I'm not acting out. I'm just done being used. Don't contact me unless it's to repay what you owe or to genuinely apologize." No response. A thought. For a week. Then Leah texted me. "What's your problem lately? You're acting like we stole from you." I didn't answer her either. Because guess what? They did steal from me. Time, money, peace. And I was over it. A week later, Maya and I were having boba in the Mission when I got a weird email from a loan agency. Confirm your application for $15,000. What? I stared at it, heart pounding. Someone had tried to open a personal loan in my name. I called the company immediately. After 5 minutes of being transferred around, a calm-sounding woman said, "The application listed you as the borrower and a co-signer named Nina Ruiz." My mom... I swear to God, I saw red. I felt my throat close up, like my own blood was choking me. They hadn't just disrespected me, they were now committing actual fraud. I called my grandma. Not the warm cookies and Afghans type, more like sharp wit and retired CPA. She lives in San Jose and doesn't take bullshit from anyone. When I told her what happened, she sighed. "I was afraid of this," she said. Then she asked, "Did your dad ever tell you about the college fund I set up for you and Leah?" Wait, what? No, I said, because of course he hadn't. Figures, she muttered. She explained that after I was born, she created 2 trust accounts equal amounts for both of us. My parents were supposed to use the funds only for education. She sent me copies of the documents. My heart dropped when I read the transaction history. They drained mine by freshman year. Not for my rent, not for books, not even for tuition. They'd used it for a kitchen remodel and Leah's braces. Meanwhile, I was eating instant ramen and rationing tampons. Grandma's voice was tight when she said, "Kayla, what they've done is not just wrong, it's possibly illegal. You need to report it." "I know," I whispered. I didn't want to, but I knew. It was time. I called a lawyer Maya recommended, Kelsey, a UC Hastings grad with a specialty in family financial abuse and fraud. She didn't flinch when I told her the story. "This happens more than people think," she said, "and you're doing the right thing." She walked me through next steps: report the attempted loan as fraud, lock down my credit, get copies of my financial documents, collect proof. Proof I'd been tracking everything since I was 18. Kelsey helped me submit the identity theft report and contacted the loan company on my behalf. They confirmed that the application had been flagged and suspended. Then we drafted a formal cease and desist letter to my parents. If they tried to access my info again, it'd escalate legally. I felt lighter. Not happy, but solid, grounded. That night, my mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Kayla, honey, you don't understand. We were desperate. We thought we could manage the payments, and we didn't want to worry you." There it was again, that classic guilt grenade disguised as concern. Then came Dad's message. "I don't know what version of the truth you've got in your head, but we've always done our best. You think you're better than us now? Don't forget who paid for your life." I laughed out loud. Paid for my life. They stole my trust fund, took my paycheck, ghosted my graduation, and still wanted to stand on a soapbox. Nah. Not anymore. 2 weeks later, I did the thing I never thought I'd do. I wrote a group email to my entire extended family, cousins, uncles, aunts, even Grandma's bridge partner Marlene, who still sends me birthday cards. Subject, just so you know. In it, I explained what happened. I attached screenshots, loan attempts, the trust fund docs, the reimbursement list. I didn't rant. I didn't curse them out. I just told the truth. Then I ended it with, I'm not asking for anything, just that the lies stop. I'm moving forward with my life, and I hope someday you'll understand why I had to walk away. I hit send. Felt like setting something on fire and watching it burn down calmly. Leah called that night. I didn't answer. She texted, "Wow, dramatic much. You're destroying our family over some cash, get therapy." I blocked her. Mom emailed me 2 days later. "We're being painted as monsters. You don't know how hard this has been on us." I replied, "You tried to take a loan out in my name. Mom, let that sink in." Since then, silence, soar. Not total silence, just absence. No more requests, no more guilt trips, no more dinner invites where I paid the check. It's been quiet, peaceful, even, and lonely. Sometimes, yeah, but not empty. Because now, for the first time, I'm living for me. No more waiting to be seen. No more performing worthiness. Just breathing. Just being. A month passed. No calls, no we miss you, no surprise visits. It was eerie how fast they moved on, like I'd never existed. Or worse, like I was just a missing appliance. Annoying that I was gone. But they'd get by. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Lopez, mid-40s, sharp Bob, didn't mess around. "I'm not here to fix you," she said at our first session. "I'm here to help you stop thinking you're broken." And God, I needed that. Because even with the anger, the evidence, the truth, I still felt this ache, like I was the villain in my own story, like I'd caused the fracture. I kept asking, was it really that bad? Did I overreact? Dr. Lopez said something that stuck. "Kayla, it's not overreacting when you're reacting to years of accumulated harm. You didn't explode, you eroded, quietly, over time." One night, I sat on my fire escape with a blanket and tea, just watching the city. I scrolled through old photos, birthday dinners, holidays, Leah's volleyball games. My face always at the edge of the frame. Always the one holding the camera. Always outside the moment. And I thought, this isn't new. They've been leaving me out for years. I just finally noticed. Mid-August, I got a call from Grandma. She never calls at night. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice low. She'd gotten a letter from my parents' lawyer. Apparently, they were considering filing a defamation suit over my email to the family. I almost choked on my tea. "They're suing me for telling the truth." Grandma sighed. "I doubt it'll happen. It's an intimidation move. But you should know." That night, I called Kelsey, my lawyer. She wasn't surprised. "This is bluffing 101, she said. "They're trying to scare you into silence." "What do I do?" "You don't flinch." We drafted a formal response that basically said, "Bring it on." I had receipts. I wasn't backing down. But something shifted after that. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about erasing me, punishing me for speaking up, for stepping out of their script. That's when I realized this was never going to be a clean break. They weren't going to let me go quietly. So I stopped trying to leave quietly. I booked a one-way ticket to Seattle, got an offer from a startup that actually gave a shit about work-life balance, found a studio near Capitol Hill with exposed brick and a tiny balcony, perfect for a lonely little bonsai tree. Maya helped me pack. You're not running away, she told me. You're starting over. Still, the day I left San Francisco, I cried the whole flight, not because I regretted leaving, because it finally hit me they weren't going to follow. Seattle was different. Cleaner air, colder nights, fewer ghosts. The first weekend, I went to a local bookstore and found a flyer for a group Adult Children of Narcissists weekly support circle. I showed up the next Tuesday, heart hammering. It was 6 of us, a nurse, a music teacher, a divorced dad, a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in a year. The leader, Ava, just said, "There's no judgment here. Just say what you need to say." I told them my story, not the polished version, the messy, stuttering, I feel like I'm crazy version. They nodded, understood. One guy, Jake, said, "It's like you're describing my mom. Mine stole my identity to get Alexis. We laugh about it now. Sometimes." I laughed too. It felt like breathing after being underwater too long. Weeks passed. I decorated my new place slowly. No rush. Every item had to feel right. A blue ceramic mug, a velvet reading chair, a secondhand rug that somehow made the whole place feel like mine. I put the bonsai on the windowsill. It was dying. No surprise there, I'd forgotten to water it for weeks during the chaos. But I trimmed the dead parts, changed the soil, sat with it in the mornings while I sipped coffee. Something about that ritual made me feel rooted. Like I wasn't floating anymore. 3 months into Seattle life, I got a package. No name, just my address, inside an envelope. No note, no return address. Just $1,000 in cash. And a printed email thread. Between Leah and my parents, it was disgusting. Leah asking if I could be convinced to move past things. Mom writing, "She'll come around if we act nice for a while. She's always needed approval." Dad adding, "Play it cool. We just need her to co-sign for the condo refinance." The cash was a bribe. A test. Or a trap. I texted Grandma, "Did you send me something?" "Nope," she replied, "but I have a guess." Kelsey told me to keep the emails. We saved screenshots, documented everything. I didn't respond. Didn't acknowledge it. Just mailed the money back to their address with a sticky note. "You've mistaken me for the old version of myself. I don't live there anymore." December rolled in with rain and early darkness. Seattle felt like a cocoon, safe, quiet, honest. My new job was tough but rewarding. My boss actually said thank you and meant it. I made friends, real ones, went on 2 dates that didn't end in disappointment, took a pottery class. I wasn't healed, but I was healing. There's a difference. Then, right before New Year's, I got another call. "Unknown number?" I answered. "Kayla." It was Leah. Her voice was small. "Can we talk?" I didn't say anything. "Not to fight," she added quickly. I think I finally get it." Silence. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry." I exhaled, long, slow. We talked for almost an hour. She admitted everything, the manipulation, the favoritism, the lies. I wanted to believe they loved us equally. She said, "But they didn't. They just loved who was useful in the moment." I know, I said. "I'm in therapy now," she added. "Mom hates it. Dad says it's a waste of money." "Figures. Can we start over?" I paused. I didn't know. But I said, "We can try." That night, I walked to the edge of Volunteer Park and just stood there, watching the city glitter below. I thought about everything San Francisco, the graduation, the fake apologies, the bonsai tree. And I realized something. I wasn't carrying the weight anymore. It was still there, the past hadn't vanished, but I wasn't holding it. It wasn't suffocating me. It wasn't me. For the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace. Not perfect, not permanent. But real. The first time Leah came to Seattle, it was pouring rain. She showed up in a giant hoodie, her backpack soaked, looking like she hadn't slept in a week. "Cute place," she said, stepping into my apartment. "Smells like candles and logic." I rolled my eyes but smiled. We didn't talk much that night, just watched a movie, ordered ramen, sat with the quiet. The air between us was still thick with things unsaid, but there was no tension, just space. Sometimes space is healing. The next morning, over pancakes, she finally asked, "Do you think they ever actually loved us the same?" I took a breath. I think they believed they did, but their version of love had conditions. It was always tied to obedience, to usefulness, to not rocking the boat. She nodded. Slow. "Yeah, I used to think you were the lucky one. Smart, focused, respected, but you were just the designated adult." That hit harder than I expected. Because she was right. In February, Grandma sent me a birthday card with a check tucked inside. "Take yourself somewhere nice," she wrote. "You've earned more than just survival." I booked a solo cabin weekend. No Wi-Fi, no screens, just a lake, a stack of books, and silence. It was the most peaceful 48 hours of my life. I wrote in my notebook, just reflections, no plans, no revenge, just clarity. They didn't break me. They bent me into something small. I made myself big again. Then spring arrived. I got promoted. Lead developer on a project I actually believed in. We were designing AI tools for accessible learning, something I wish I'd had growing up. I celebrated by buying a new bonsai. The old one, despite my efforts, didn't make it through the winter. And that was okay. It had done its job. It had carried me through. Now it was time for something new. In May, I got an email. Subject line: Family estate meeting, required attendance. Attached was a notice about Grandma's will. It wasn't a shock. Her health had been declining, and she'd mentioned having things set up already. Still, seeing it in writing, it gutted me. Leah and I flew to the Bay Area together. We met at the airport, both wearing sunglasses indoors, both pretending we weren't grieving already. The lawyer's office smelled like furniture polish and old decisions. Mom, Dad, and Leah sat on one side of the long table. I sat on the other. The air was stale. The lawyer, a wiry man named Mr. Hansley, cleared his throat and got to business. No dramatics, just facts. Grandma had divided everything equally between Leah and me. Her savings, her property, her personal belongings, and her journals. She left one for each of us. Dad looked furious. She didn't even consult us, he snapped. She didn't need to, I said calmly. Mom didn't speak, just stared at the folder in front of her like it might explode. Afterward, Leah and I went to the cottage. It hadn't changed, still smelled like cinnamon and sea wind. Her journal was wrapped in a lavender scarf. Mine was bound in deep blue leather, with a sticky note inside that read, "For the one who always looked for the truth." I read it that night, all of it. Grandma wrote about her own pain, about choosing to stay quiet in her marriage, about watching her son grow into someone cold, about seeing me become the same kind of anchor she'd once been for everyone else. But the final page stopped me. You don't owe them loyalty at the cost of your peace. You don't have to bleed to prove you love them. Be your own safe place. Kayla, be your own legacy. A month later, Dad emailed me. Short, cold. Since you seem to think you know better, you can deal with the property taxes and the maintenance on the cottage. Let's see how long you last when you don't have anyone else cleaning up after you. I laughed out loud. Replied with a single sentence, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it, just like I took care of myself for the last 25 years. Then I blocked his email. And you know what? I did take care of it. I hired a property manager, set up a short-term rental system, used the passive income to start a savings account I labeled "Things They Said I Couldn't Do." In July, I started therapy again. Not crisis therapy, not survival therapy. Just regular. I want to understand myself better therapy. Biggest thing I learned. I had value outside of my usefulness, outside of how much I could give. Even when I wasn't helping, or achieving, or fixing, I was still worth something. That's a hell of a thing to learn at 26. The real closure came quietly. I was walking through Pike Place Market, iced coffee in hand, when I saw a little girl arguing with her mom. "I'm not your servant," she yelled, defiant. The mom looked embarrassed. Other shoppers glanced over. But I just smiled. Because that little girl had already found her voice. I hadn't found mine until I nearly drowned in silence. But I found it. Eventually, and that's what mattered. Later that week, I visited the ocean. Just sat on the rocks, watching the water punch the shore. I pulled out Grandma's journal again, read the last line for the 100th time. Be your own safe place. So I wrote one of my own. A new journal. First page. I am not broken. I am rebuilding. I am not bitter. I am learning. I am not lost. I am choosing. This time, I choose me. Then I tossed a pebble into the waves. Not as a metaphor. Just because it felt good. I didn't get justice in the dramatic way. There were no handcuffs, no courtroom gasps. Just a slow unraveling. The web they spun, I stepped out of it. The pedestal they built for Leah, she stepped off it. We chose ourselves. And for once, that was enough. Story 3. She's so ordinary, he's settling. That's what my stepmom hissed under her breath at my wedding, right before my father muttered, "She's lucky he even proposed." I heard them. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. Before I could even react, my grandfather James grabbed the mic like it was a weapon and said, loud enough for the entire venue to fall into silence, "Maya is extraordinary, and I have proof." Their faces paled like someone had flipped the color off their smug little TVs. But let me back up, because you need to understand how we got here. The satin of my wedding dress shimmered in the sunlight as I stared at myself in the mirror, trying to recognize the woman in white. I was 29, getting married in 3 hours, and I felt hollow. The bridal suite was beautiful but too big, too cold, like a hotel room you can't get comfortable in. The flowers were perfect, the playlist soft and sweet, the perfume Ethan gave me for my birthday still lingered in the air. And yet, all I could feel was the weight. I kept hearing my dad's voice from last night. "Don't overdo the vows. Maya, you're not auditioning for Broadway." And Diana, my stepmom, had leaned in with that snake oil smile and said, "Remember, subtlety is elegant. No one likes a bride trying too hard. right, like I'd ever been allowed to try at all. I was 12 when my mom died. Cancer. It was long and slow and cruel. 8 months of hospital corridors, takeout dinners in waiting rooms, and learning what fear smelled like. And after she passed, my dad didn't break, he disappeared. His body was still there, sure, but the man gone. He became this shadow. Quiet, cold, unreachable. I'd try to connect with him, cook something, draw him a picture, sit beside him, but he'd barely notice. One night, I made mac and cheese and called him to dinner. He walked right past me, didn't even ask if I'd eaten. Then came Diana, 11 months after my mom's funeral, like a rebrand he'd been planning. She was blonde, surgically enhanced, and constantly dressed like she was attending a gala even to the grocery store. With her came Zoe, her 15-year-old daughter who took one look at our house and decided she was royalty, sent to gentrify a sad little town. Within a week, Zoe had claimed my bedroom. You don't mind moving to the smaller one, do you? I have more clothes. Didn't wait for a response, just started unpacking. That was the tone of my teenage years. Me constantly shrinking, them always taking up space. Diana had this art of cruelty, never outright insults, just suggestions, accidental omissions. My birthday gifts would disappear, my school uniform would be mysteriously unwashed. When I asked about it, she'd tilt her head and say, "Are you sure you didn't misplace them, sweetheart?" Zoe didn't bother pretending. She'd smirk and say things like, "Do people actually like you or do they just feel bad for you?" I told my dad once, just once. "Dad," Diana threw away Mom's pictures. He didn't even look up from his phone. "Maya, let's not stir up drama. She's trying. It's not easy being in her position." Her position. I was a 13-year-old girl sleeping in a room that still smelled like fresh paint, a color Diana had picked because it's more neutral like my existence. The only one who ever really saw me was Grandpa James. He'd come once a month, sit beside me at dinner, squeeze my hand when Diana said something cutting. He never made a scene, but his presence felt like armor. "You're your mother's daughter," he'd whisper on the porch, soft but strong, like oak. "Don't forget that." He started slipping me books, escape hatches made of paper, and eventually, money. Quiet gifts, no notes, just folded bills tucked into the pages of poetry. By the time I turned 18, I had enough to move out. I left on a Tuesday. No big goodbye, just a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I'll be fine. Don't worry." Second sentence was pointless. I knew they wouldn't. I enrolled in community college, got a job at a bookstore, rented a tiny studio with a bathroom so small I could wash my hands while peeing, but it was mine. Then I met Ethan. It was raining that day. I ducked into a local art gallery to dry off. He was there, standing in front of a black and white photo of a broken house. There was a tree growing through its roof. "It's like the house refuses to die," he said, without turning. I laughed, stubborn in the best way. We talked for 3 hours, over coffee, over rain, over shared silences that didn't feel uncomfortable. He restored old furniture, could name every constellation, had a golden retriever named Otto. He felt safe, not boring, not flashy, just real. A year later, he proposed, not in a big public scene, but in his workshop, next to an antique desk he'd restored just because I once said I liked it. "This reminded me of you," he said, holding up a vintage sapphire ring. "Beautiful, a little worn, but so worth saving." I said yes before he could finish the sentence. Then came the wedding plans. And the question I'd avoided for years, do I invite them? Lily, my college roommate and ride or die, was the first to ask, "Are you inviting your family?" I stirred my coffee. I don't know. But I did. Deep down, I wanted to believe they'd changed. That time had softened them, that weddings could be healing. So I sent the invites, all of them, even Zoe. 3 days later, Diana called. We're thrilled. Darling, of course I'll help with everything. Oh, blush pink would be so flattering on Zoe. I told her we'd already picked navy and silver. She made a sound like I'd told her we were serving roadkill. Well, she said coolly, I suppose that's unique. Each call after that felt like death by 1,000 Pinterest suggestions. Zoe texted me 40 different dresses for herself. My dad sent a check with wedding written in the memo. No note, no call. Only Grandpa James asked, "How are you holding up, kiddo?" I told him the truth, nervous, like I'm walking into the lion's den. He just said, "Then walk tall, make them blink first." Now here I am. Minutes from walking down the aisle, the photographer's asking people to leave so he can take portraits. The bridal suite empties. Lily gives me one last hug. Grandpa James kisses my forehead. And I'm alone again. Except I'm not really. The ghosts are here. Mom's voice in my head, whispering courage. Every diary page I ever scribbled in anger. Every time Diana made me feel invisible. They're all here, watching, waiting. I smooth the fabric of my dress, breathe in deep, and step toward the door. I can already hear murmurs outside, chairs scraping, the music warming up. This is it. I reach for the door. And that's when I hear it. From the hallway, voices familiar. Diana, Zoe, and my dad. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I didn't go looking for pain. But when you hear your name whispered just outside your wedding suite, your body just reacts. I froze, fingers still on the doorknob. The thick wooden door barely muffled their voices. Dean. Diana first, I still can't believe she chose this place. So, safe. Zoe giggled, that sharp, glass-breaking kind of laugh. Honestly, it's like a Pinterest board from 2015, all that navy and silver yawn. Then my dad, his voice lower, but not enough. At least she found someone. I was beginning to think she never would. My blood turned to ice. He seems decent, Diana added. Stable, but honestly, he could have done better. She's sweet, just not very memorable. Zoe chimed in again. She's like a reliable car, no flair, but it gets you there. He'll get bored in 5 years. I backed away from the door like it had burned me. The bouquet slipped from my hands, hitting the floor with a soft thud. White roses and forget-me-nots scattered like broken promises. Not very memorable. A reliable car, he could have done better. Each sentence carved into me like a slow, careful incision. I should have walked away, should have said something, but I couldn't even breathe. They were supposed to be my family, and here they were mocking me, laughing at me, on my wedding day. I turned, barely made it to the vanity stool before collapsing into it. My reflection in the mirror looked nothing like a bride, just a woman gutted, mascara smudged, shoulders shaking, eyes wide with betrayal. A soft knock on the door. Maya Lily, her voice gentle but concerned. I couldn't answer, not yet. The door creaked open. Oh my God, what happened? She rushed in, kneeling beside me. I heard them. I choked out, Dad, Diana, Zoe. They were talking about me, like I was some joke. Her arms wrapped around me instantly. They're cruel, she hissed. They always have been. I thought maybe today, just today, they'd be kind. Lily pulled back, brushing a tear from my cheek. You're not boring. Maya, you're brilliant. You're kind. You're more real than any of them combined. And Ethan, He knows it. He chose you. Don't let their brokenness steal your joy. I wanted to believe her. But those words, they'd hit where I was weakest. I stood slowly, wiping my face, breathing deep. No one was going to ruin this day for me. Not again. The ceremony was beautiful. Soft music, candlelight, Ethan, standing at the altar with that look, the one that made everything else fade. I walked toward him on my own. No dad at my side, no fake show for tradition. Just me, in my mother's bracelet, carrying flowers that matched her wedding bouquet, walking toward a future I chose. Ethan's eyes welled up the second he saw me. That moment alone was worth everything. Vows were spoken, rings exchanged. We kissed under the soft arches of the chapel. Applause, smiles, relief. It was perfect. Almost. The reception buzzed with chatter and laughter. I held Ethan's hand like a lifeline. Everyone kept saying how gorgeous the setup was, how elegant the ceremony felt, how happy we looked. Then Grandpa James stood and picked up the mic. The DJ lowered the music. A hush spread across the room. Grandpa cleared his throat. I wasn't planning to speak, he began, but something needs to be said. All eyes turned to him. I sat up straighter. For years, he continued, I've watched this young woman grow. I've watched her survive things no one should have to, and yet she stands here today, glowing, whole, brave, and I want everyone here to know it didn't come easy. My dad shifted in his seat. Diana's face stiffened. Ness. Zoe rolled her eyes. Grandpa wasn't fazed. I started recording family dinners after Maya turned 16, not because I expected to use them, but because I feared no one would believe me otherwise. He nodded to my cousin Patrick, who rolled out a small projector. I know it's unconventional, Grandpa said, but it's time some truths were shown. The lights dimmed, and then the video started. Years of footage, clipped, precise. Diana making jokes at my expense, Zoe sniping about my clothes, my career, my voice, my father, sitting silently, occasionally chiming in with backhanded remarks. People in the room gasped. Whispers swelled. I felt the burn of 200 eyes turning toward me not in judgment, but in horror. This, Grandpa said when the lights returned, is what Maya has lived through. And yet, look at her. He turned to me, voice cracking slightly. She is the most extraordinary person I know, and I want you all to see her for who she really is, not who they told you she was. Silence. Ethan stood, took the mic from Grandpa. I don't care what any of you just saw. I've known this for a long time. Maya is everything. Then he turned to me. You are not boring. You are not ordinary. You are the most alive, thoughtful, passionate person I've ever met. I would marry you again tomorrow. People stood, clapped, some cried. My stepmother stood too, but not to clap. This is slander, she hissed. You think this is appropriate for a wedding? My dad stayed seated, face blank. Zoe grabbed her bag. We're leaving, Diana snapped. Enjoy your little rebellion. The doors closed behind them. I stood, legs trembling, heart pounding. But I didn't feel weak. I felt free. Later, Ethan and I snuck outside into the garden. The air was cool, crisp. The stars above shimmered like a wink from the universe. I'm sorry, I said, voice quiet. He turned to me, confused. For what? For all that drama. He laughed, shaking his head. Maya, you think that changed anything? That just made me love you more. We sat on a stone bench, hands intertwined. "What now?" I asked. He looked at me, eyes warm and steady. "Now we start clean. No lies, no pretending, just us." And in that moment, I believed it was possible. That night, after everyone left and the venue was quiet again, I stood barefoot in our hotel suite, still wearing my wedding dress. Ethan was already out of his tux, brushing his teeth like it was any other night, like we hadn't just detonated a truth bomb in front of 200 people. He peeked around the corner of the bathroom. "You okay?" I nodded. "I think so." But the truth. I felt like I'd been spun through a tornado and dropped into some strange version of my life where people actually clapped when I stood up for myself. I didn't know what to do with that. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, missed calls, emails. Some were from people at the wedding, friends, Ethan's cousins, coworkers I barely knew, telling me how brave I was, how powerful the speech had been, how much it made them cry. And then there was a message from my dad. "Maya, please call me when you're ready. I'd like to talk." I stared at it for a long time. "Are you going to call him?" Ethan asked, sliding a cup of hotel coffee into my hands. "I don't know." "Then don't," he said, shrugging. "You don't owe anyone anything today, especially not him." That's what struck me. I didn't. For once in my life, I wasn't obligated to forgive or entertain or manage anyone's feelings but my own. 3 weeks passed. We moved into our new apartment, smaller than the house Ethan had originally wanted, but cozier, sunnier, ours. We painted the living room together, ate pizza on the floor, adopted a rescue cat named Nova, who instantly claimed Ethan's side of the bed like it was her birthright. And for the first time, I felt what it meant to just be. To wake up without bracing myself, to talk without walking on eggshells, to laugh without checking who might be listening. But still there were ghosts. They didn't leave just because I did. Lily came by one night with Thai takeout and her signature chaotic energy. She flopped onto our couch, chopsticks in hand. "Okay, updates. 1. Zoe's Instagram is on lockdown. 2. Diana posted some cryptic quote about betrayal. Something like, 'Snakes always shed skin, but they're still snakes.'" I snorted. She would. Anyway, Lily said, pointing her chopsticks at me, "I have a question." I raised an eyebrow. "When are you going to go full nuclear and post that wedding video on TikTok?" I blinked. "You think I should?" "I think," she said, leaning in, "that hundreds of people have told you how seen they felt by what happened, and I think there are a hell of a lot more Mayas out there who need to see someone say, 'Enough.'" I didn't answer right away. But 2 days later, I clipped a short part of Grandpa James's speech. No names, no faces, just his voice, steady and clear. I posted it with a simple caption, "Sometimes, truth needs a microphone." It went viral in under 48 hours. The comments hit me hardest. Women, men, strangers pouring out their stories like wounds finally had somewhere to breathe. My mom said I wasn't wife material. I believed her until now. This made me sob. "Thank you for showing that chosen love is real. I watched this 5 times. I'm getting divorced and I needed to know I wasn't the problem." Every time I refreshed, more poured in. And I realized something: it wasn't just about me. It never was. My dad finally called again. I let it go to voicemail. Again. Eventually, he emailed. Subject: I owe you more than an apology. The body was short. I watched the video, all of it, then I watched it again. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, but if you're open to it, I'd like to understand how to be better." I know I failed you. If you're willing, maybe we can talk. No pressure. Dad? Ethan found me staring at the email. You okay? I handed him the phone. He read it, then handed it back. You don't have to do anything with that, but if you do, I'll support you. Whatever happens. A week later, I agreed to meet him. Neutral territory, a quiet cafe near my work, public, but not crowded. He was already there when I walked in. Same graying hair, same rigid posture, but something about him seemed smaller. Hi, he said as I sat down. Hi. There was a long pause. He looked nervous. It felt surreal. I've started therapy, he said finally. I blinked. I know it doesn't undo anything, he added quickly, but it's a start. I spent a long time blaming everyone else. Your mom, you, myself. Though I never said it, I just buried everything. I stayed quiet, let him fill the silence for once. I don't expect you to say anything, he said. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. All of it. And I'm sorry. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, a grown woman watching her father unravel in real time. He wasn't the monster I'd built in my head. He was a broken man who'd done monstrous things. That distinction didn't change the past, but it mattered. That night, I told Ethan everything. What Dad said, what he didn't. How do you feel, he asked. I don't know, I answered honestly, relieved, angry, tired. He nodded. All of it's valid. Then he pulled me close. You don't have to decide anything now. Healing doesn't have a deadline. Months passed. I kept writing. Journaling turned into essays. Essays turned into blog posts. Eventually, I was offered a spot on a podcast about family estrangement and rebuilding. I shared my story, heard others, felt the invisible weight that had lived in my chest since I was 12 slowly start to lift. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, thriving. Then one day, a package arrived. No name, just a return address in upstate New York. Inside, a small wooden box. I recognized the carvings, the design. It was the antique writing desk Ethan had proposed at the very one he restored, and inside the drawer, a folded note for Maya, because some things aren't broken, they just need time. It was from Grandpa James. I called him instantly. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he said. You've always been the brave one. Just needed a place to put it. I put the box on my desk. And beside it, I left a blank notebook. Because this new chapter, it was mine to write. Spring came slowly that year. The kind of slow that lets you notice things, buds on trees, longer sunsets, the way the air smells just slightly different at dusk. I'd changed too. People noticed, even strangers online who followed my story since the wedding video went viral. They commented things like, "You look lighter. Your eyes don't seem as sad anymore." They were right. I'd stopped shrinking. I was offered a book deal in April. A small press, nothing flashy, but they wanted me to write the full story about the wedding, about surviving toxicity, about rebuilding from ashes most people never saw. I almost said no. Too personal, too raw. But Ethan read my draft and said, "This isn't just your pain, it's your power." So I said yes. The working title, Uninvited Becoming Myself Anyway. Lily cried when I told her. "You deserve this, all of it," she said, hugging me tight. "Next step, TED Talk." I laughed, but part of me wondered, was it weird to be this happy, this seen? Not long ago, I believed I was forgettable. Now strangers were quoting my words back to me, DMing me paragraphs about how they left bad marriages, found therapy, finally said no to their parents. I wasn't just healing, I was watching other people heal with me. It felt unreal. My dad called again in May. We'd been slowly talking more, nothing deep yet, just the surface stuff. But this time, he asked something different. Would you consider coming for dinner, just you and me? I hesitated. At your place? No, a restaurant, neutral ground. I agreed. It was weird, sitting across from him at an Italian place that clearly hadn't updated their decor since 1996. Plastic grapes hanging from ceiling tiles. Waiters who called everyone boss. We made awkward small talk for the first 10 minutes. Then he took a deep breath. I've been reading your blog. He said, all of it. Oh. You didn't spare me? I wasn't supposed to. He nodded. I know, and I think I needed to see myself through your eyes. He looked down at the tablecloth, picked at a loose thread. I wish I had protected you better. I wish I had the guts to call out Diana sooner, or at all. I didn't respond, just listened. I let them change the way our house felt. Let them rewrite the rules. I told myself it was grief, that I was surviving, but that doesn't excuse it. He looked at me then, really looked. I don't expect a second chance, but if you ever want to build something new, something honest, I'm here. I stared at him for a long moment and said the truest thing I could. I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not ready for trust either. That takes time. That's fair. We didn't hug, didn't cry. But when we walked out, he held the door for me, and for the first time in years, I let him. Diana never reached out. Zoe made a vague apology in the form of a DM that said, sorry if I was harsh. Teenagers are stupid. Hope you're good. I left it on read. Not out of malice. Just no space for more half apologies. I was too full of real things now. Ethan and I traveled that summer. Just small trips, coastal towns, roadside diners, antique shops where he lit up like a kid at Christmas. One day in Portland, we sat on a beach eating fish tacos from a paper tray, and I told him, I think I'm finally okay. He smiled, took my hand. I know, I've seen it. And I realized he had all along. Not just the big moments, the viral clips, the drama, but the quiet ones. Like when I stopped apologizing before speaking, or when I painted our bathroom bright yellow because it made me happy, even if it wasn't on trend. He saw the small ways I was choosing myself, every day, and loved me for it. I submitted the final manuscript in August. It ended not with a triumphant speech or perfect closure, but a scene at home. Me in pajamas, barefoot in the kitchen, dancing with Ethan while Nova curled up on the windowsill, the smell of banana bread in the oven. Joy! Uncomplicated, honest, ordinary joy. Not the kind of ending you post on social media, but the kind you build your life around. The book launched that fall. Small reading events, bookstores, libraries. People came up to me in tears, clutching dog-eared copies. You told my story. You gave me the words I never had. I left my mother's house for the last time because of you. I hugged every one of them. Not because I had all the answers, but because I knew what it felt like to feel invisible. To finally be seen. That's a kind of magic I'll never take for granted. One night, months later, I sat with Grandpa James on our back porch. He was older now, slower, but still sharp. "I read your book," he said, sipping tea. "Did it make you angry?" "No," he said. "It made me proud. You told the truth, and it was beautiful." We sat in silence for a while. Crickets in the distance, the smell of lavender from the garden. "You know," he said, "your mom, she always said you were going to shake things up." "Did she?" "She said you were soft like velvet but strong like stone, unassuming until someone underestimated you, then God help 'em." I laughed, eyes stinging. He looked at me gently. "I'm glad you found your voice, Maya, and I'm glad the world got to hear it. So here's where I leave you. I'm still the girl who lost her mom too young, who got shoved into a corner by a stepfamily that treated her like a footnote, who was told she was ordinary on the day she was supposed to feel most beautiful. But I'm also the woman who said no more. Who stopped asking for permission to be herself? Who chose joy over legacy, love over fear, truth over silence? And in case no one's told you lately, you're allowed to do the same. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment. You don't need a wedding or a microphone. Just your voice. And the courage to use it.